The Discovery, the salvage vessel Eternal Harvest, drifted through the debris field at the edge of the scorched nebula. Captain Zorax adjusted his forearms on the control panels, his crystalline skin reflecting the dim starlight. His crew of Valdorians had been searching this forgotten sector for 3 cycles. Finding nothing but ancient wreckage and dead colonies, Captain. I'm detecting something unusual, announced Navigator Cree, her tentacles dancing across the sensor array. Metal signature, but the composition is strange, not matching any known alloy in our database. Zorax leaned forward, his compound eyes focusing on the readout. The object was massive, easily 3 times the size of their vessel. It appeared to be a ship, though its design was unlike anything in the Coalition's records. Angular and brutal, it looked less like a vessel and more like a weapon that had learned to fly. "Bring us closer," Zorax commanded. Slowly. If it's a derelict, it might still have automated defenses. The Eternal Harvest approached cautiously. As they drew near, the true scale of the vessel became apparent. It stretched nearly 2 kilometers in length, its hull scarred by centuries of micrometeorite impacts. Strange symbols were etched along its side, partially obscured by cosmic dust. The ship was dark. No lights, no energy signatures, just a tomb floating in the void. "No life signs," reported Science Officer Telm, his scaled head tilting in curiosity. "But there's something odd. The hull shows damage consistent with at least 500 standard years of exposure, yet certain sections appear to be self-repairing. Look at these readings." The screen showed microscopic images of the hull. Where damage had occurred, tiny machines, no larger than dust particles, were slowly rebuilding the structure. It was a technology the Coalition had theorized about but never achieved. "Nanomachines," whispered Cree. "Whoever built this had technology beyond our understanding." Zorax made his decision. "Prepare a boarding party. We're going in." The airlock of the mysterious vessel yielded surprisingly easily to their cutting tools. Too easily, Telm noted with suspicion, as if it wanted them to enter. The boarding party consisted of 6 Valdorians, each armed with plasma rifles and scanning equipment. They moved through the dark corridors, their suit lights casting long shadows on walls covered in more of those strange symbols. The interior was a study in efficient brutality. No curves, no aesthetic considerations, just pure function. Pipes and conduits ran along the ceiling, and heavy blast doors separated each section. Everything was built to withstand incredible punishment. "Captain, you need to see this," called Specialist Vex from ahead. They had entered what appeared to be a central hub. Rows upon rows of sealed pods lined the walls, each one frosted over with ice. Through the transparent covers, they could make out shapes. Bipedal forms smaller than Valdorians with only 2 arms and smooth skin. "Are they dead?" Cree asked, her voice barely a whisper. Telm scanned one of the pods. "No, they're in some kind of stasis. Biological functions reduced to near zero, but definitely alive. There must be thousands of them throughout the ship." Zorax examined the pod more closely. The creature inside was strange, almost fragile-looking. No natural armor, no redundant limbs, no visible weapons. How had such beings built something so advanced? "Look at this," Vex called from a raised platform in the center of the room. A single chair sat before a darkened console, designed for one of these creatures. Above it, holographic projectors waited dormant. Vex reached out to touch the console, and suddenly everything changed. Lights flickered to life throughout the ship. A low hum filled the air as power systems engaged. The ice on the pods began to crack and fall away, and then a voice spoke. Not through their translators, but directly into their minds. Cold and mechanical, yet somehow alive. Unauthorized access detected. Species unknown. Threat assessment in progress. The Valdorians raised their weapons instinctively, but there was nothing to shoot at. The voice seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. Scanning complete. Valdorian species identified. Coalition member. Designation. Former enemy. Initiating revival protocol. "Former enemy?" Zorax muttered. "What does it mean by that?" Before anyone could answer, one of the pods began to open. Steam hissed out as the cover lifted, and the creature inside stirred. It sat up slowly, blinking in the light, then fixed its gaze on the Valdorians. When it spoke, the translator struggled with the language before finally rendering it comprehensible. "You're not Draken," the creature said, its voice hoarse from centuries of silence, "which means either we won or everyone lost." More pods began to open. Dozens, then hundreds. The creatures emerged, some stumbling, others moving with surprising grace despite their long sleep. They wore uniforms of some kind, utilitarian and marked with insignia the Valdorians didn't recognize. "I am Commander Chen," the first creature said, standing now. Despite being half Zorax's height, there was something in its bearing that commanded attention. "United Earthship Prometheus, and you've just woken up humanity's last hope." "Humanity?" Telm asked, the word unfamiliar. Chen nodded, gesturing to the awakening figures around them. "That's what we call ourselves, humans. And judging by your presence here, I'm guessing the galaxy has forgotten all about us. That was the plan after all." "Plan?" Zorax lowered his weapon slightly. "We know nothing of your species. The Coalition has no record of humans." A bitter smile crossed Chen's face. "Good, that means the memory wipe worked. Tell me, do your histories speak of the Draken Empire?" Every Valdorian stiffened. The Draken Empire was ancient history, a cautionary tale told to younglings. They had once ruled half the galaxy with an iron fist until they suddenly disappeared 5 centuries ago. No one knew what happened to them. "They vanished," Kree said slowly. "No one knows why." Chen's smile grew wider, but there was no warmth in it. "Oh, we know why. We happened to them." The lights in the chamber grew brighter, and holographic displays came to life showing star maps and battle formations. The ship's voice spoke again, but this time it sounded almost pleased. "All systems nominal. Crew revival at 47%. Weapon systems online. Awaiting orders." "Commander." Chen walked to the command chair, running a hand over its surface with something like affection. "You see, Captain Zorax, the Draken made a mistake. They tried to enslave Earth. They destroyed our cities, killed billions, and thought they had won. But humans, we have this annoying habit of not staying down." More humans were emerging now, some beginning to check systems, others retrieving equipment from hidden compartments. They moved with practiced efficiency, as if they had drilled this moment 1,000 times. "We built this fleet in secret," Chen continued, "hidden in dead systems constructed in the shadows. We studied Draken technology, improved upon it, and then we struck. Not at their worlds, but at their leadership. Every Draken of royal blood, every general, every admiral. We hunted them across the galaxy." "That's impossible," Telm protested. "The Draken Empire spanned 10,000 worlds." "Impossible for most species," Chen agreed. "But humans are stubborn. We spent 300 years hunting them down. And when we were done, when the last Draken leader fell, we enacted the final protocol. We released a virus into their computer networks, one that deleted all records of humanity and the war. Then we went to sleep waiting." "Waiting for what?" Zorax asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. "To see if the galaxy could manage without us. To see if, without the Draken, the other species could build something better. A coalition, perhaps?" Chen's eyes gleamed with interest. "Tell me about this coalition of yours." As Zorax began to explain the current state of the galaxy, the 500 years of relative peace since the Draken vanished, he noticed something. The humans were listening intently, but they were also preparing. Weapons were being distributed, systems were being checked, and the ship itself seemed to be waking up more with each passing moment. "Commander Chen," Zorax said carefully, "what are your intentions? The galaxy is at peace now. The old wars are over." Chen looked at him for a long moment, then at the star map showing current coalition space. "Peace, how novel." The human turned to face Zorax fully. "Captain, I'm going to be honest with you. We programmed our ships to wake us if certain conditions were met. The fact that you're here, that you found us, means something has changed. Our deep space sensors have been passive scanning for centuries. So tell me, what aren't you telling me about this piece of yours?" Zorax's scales shifted color, a sign of distress his species couldn't hide. The truth was the coalition was fracturing. The hegemony wars had begun just 2 cycles ago, and already 3 systems had fallen to the aggressive expansion of the Kelmar hegemony. It was why his crew was out here, searching for anything that might help. "I see," Chen said, reading his expression. "So the peace is failing. How predictable." The commander turned to the other humans. "Looks like the galaxy still needs us after all." The awakening. The briefing room of the Prometheus could have held 100, but only a dozen beings occupied it now. 6 humans, including Commander Chen, and 6 Valdorians, Zorax's senior staff. The holographic display showed the current state of the galaxy, with hegemony space marked in aggressive red. The Kelmar hegemony emerged from the outer reaches about 5 years ago, Zorax explained. They claim to be the inheritors of the Draken Empire, though we found no evidence of actual connection. They've been expanding systematically, overwhelming coalition forces with superior numbers and brutality. Lieutenant Morrison, Chen's tactical officer, studied the display with keen interest. Their fleet positions are overextended. They're relying on fear rather than strategic deployment. Fear is effective, Telm countered. The coalition hasn't fought a real war in centuries. Most member species have forgotten how. Chen stood walking around the display. But you haven't forgotten, have you, Captain? That's why you're really out here. Not salvaging, but searching for weapons. Zorax's forearms gestured in what humans would learn was the Valdorian equivalent of a shrug. The Coalition Council believes in diplomatic solutions. Some of us disagree. Smart, Chen said. Hope for peace, prepare for war. Very human of you. We are nothing like humans, Telm said quickly, then paused. Are we? Dr. Sarah Park, the Prometheus's chief scientist, laughed. More than you might think. Every sapient species shares certain traits. The will to survive, to protect their young, to seek meaning. The Draken thought they were different, superior. They learned otherwise. How many human ships are there? Kree asked. How many of you survived? Chen exchanged glances with his officers. The Prometheus is one of 12 sleeper ships, each one hidden, each one waiting. If one woke, the others would receive a signal to begin their own revival process. By now they should all be coming online. 12 ships against the hegemony fleet? Vex sounded skeptical. They have thousands of vessels. The Draken had tens of thousands, Morrison said flatly. Numbers aren't everything. The ship's AI, which the humans called Athena, materialized as a holographic woman. Her appearance startled the Valdorians, who weren't used to AIs with human forms. Commander, I've completed deep scans of Coalition technology as provided by our guest's ship. Their advancement has been steady but conservative. However, I'm detecting some interesting innovations in their shield harmonics that could be integrated into our systems. You're learning from us? Telm asked, incredulous. Of course, Athena replied. Adaptation is survival. The Draken failed because they believed their way was the only way. Humans succeeded because we learned from everyone, even our enemies. Chen returned to his seat. Captain Zorax, I'm going to make you an offer. The Coalition needs help, and humanity needs to know if we can trust the galaxy again. A joint operation. Your knowledge of current politics and space, our military capabilities. What kind of operation? Zorax asked carefully. The hegemony just took the Nexus station, according to your data. That station controls the jump gates for 7 systems. Take it back and you cut their expansion in half. Impossible. The station is defended by 100 ships. To conventional thinking, yes. Chen smiled. But humans don't think conventionally. Athena, show them the Ghost Protocol. The display changed, showing tactical overlays and approach vectors that seemed to defy logic. Ships appearing from nowhere, strikes at seemingly random points that would cascade into system-wide failures. We developed this fighting the Draken, Morrison explained. Stealth technology isn't just about being invisible. It's about being where the enemy doesn't expect, when they don't expect it. Over the next several hours, the two groups planned. The Valdorians were amazed by human tactical thinking, their ability to see patterns and weaknesses that others missed. The humans, in turn, were impressed by Valdorian sensor technology and their detailed knowledge of hegemony procedures. There's one thing I don't understand, Kree said during a break. Why did you sleep? Why not stay awake, join the galaxy? Dr. Park answered. We were tired. 300 years of war, of hunting, of vengeance. We needed to heal, to let go of the anger, and we needed to know if we were necessary or just another violent species adding to the chaos. And now, Telm asked, now we know. The galaxy managed 500 years of peace. That's remarkable, worth protecting, worth fighting for. The next day the Prometheus moved. The Valdorians watched in awe as the human ship engaged its stealth systems, seeming to fade from reality itself. Only their quantum entanglement communicator kept them in contact. We're approaching the Nexus station, Chen reported. Athena has identified optimal strike points. Captain, are your people ready? Zorax looked at his crew. They had spent the night learning human tactics, studying their approaches. It went against every military doctrine the Coalition taught, but there was something inspiring about it. The absolute confidence that a smaller force could defeat a larger one through superior planning and execution. We're ready, Zorax confirmed. The attack began not with weapons fire, but with infiltration. Human stealth pods, impossible to detect, attached to hegemony ships and introduced viruses into their systems. Not destructive ones, but codes that caused minor malfunctions. A navigation system off by a degree. A communication array with a half-second delay. Tiny problems that would cascade. Then came the psychological warfare. Athena broadcasted on all hegemony frequencies not a message, but sounds. The death cries of Draken Lords from 500 years ago, preserved in the Prometheus's archives. The hegemony forces, who claimed to be Draken's successors, heard their supposed ancestors dying, begging, falling. Now, Chen commanded. The Prometheus appeared in the middle of the hegemony formation, weapon systems fully charged. But instead of firing on the ships, they targeted the station's shield generators with surgical precision. 12 shots, 12 generators down. The Valdorian ship, following the human plan, jumped in at exactly the right moment, broadcasting coalition relief codes. The station, confused and panicked, opened its doors to what it thought were reinforcements. Within an hour, the station was retaken with minimal casualties. The hegemony fleet, thrown into chaos by system failures and psychological warfare, retreated in disorder. How? The Coalition Council asked when they received the report. How did one Valdorian salvage vessel retake the Nexus? Zorax looked at Chen, who nodded. We had help. Humanity has returned. The council chamber erupted in confusion. Humanity was a myth, a legend, something whispered about in the oldest archives. But as the Prometheus dropped its stealth and appeared in Coalition space, broadcasting identification codes older than most civilizations, they had to accept the truth. Commander Chen stood before the council, representing not just the Prometheus but all 12 sleeper ships now awakening across the galaxy. 500 years ago, we chose to disappear rather than rule through fear as the Draken did. We gave the galaxy a chance to find its own way, and you built something beautiful. The Coalition isn't perfect, but it's built on cooperation, not conquest. That's worth protecting. What do you want? The council president asked. To help, to be part of something better than what we were. Humanity was forged in war, but we dream of peace. Let us stand with you, not as conquerors or saviors, but as partners. The vote was unanimous. The Coalition extended membership to humanity, and with it, a new age began. In the months that followed, human ships worked alongside Coalition forces, their unconventional tactics and advanced technology turning the tide against the hegemony. But more than their military might, it was their spirit that inspired. Humans had faced extinction and survived. They had defeated an empire and chosen not to replace it. They had slept for centuries rather than impose their will on others. Captain Zorax, now serving as liaison between humanity and the Coalition, often found himself on the Prometheus's observation deck with Commander Chen. Do you regret it? Zorax asked one day. Sleeping for so long? Chen looked out at the stars, at Coalition and human ships flying in formation. No, we needed that time, and so did the galaxy. We were weapons then. Now we can be something more. What? Hope. The hegemony war ended not with their destruction, but with their transformation. Faced with human tactics and Coalition unity, they eventually sought peace. The galaxy had learned a valuable lesson. Diversity wasn't weakness, but strength. Every species brought something unique, something valuable. And humanity? They finally found what they had been searching for all along. Not vengeance or dominion, but home. A place in a community of worlds, each different, all united. The sleeper ships remained, maintained and ready, but no longer hiding. They stood as monuments to resilience and reminders that even in the darkest times there was always hope. Sometimes that hope had to sleep, to wait for the right moment to awaken. But when it did, it changed everything.